let's go around the horn. Shotgun reaction to yesterday's win that puts the Browns at 7-3 and a half game out of first place in the North.
I thought my Browns had a great day. It was a great win by the Browns.
Where you get that? I see you
wearing the shirt.
Hey, listen.
It was a fantastic win. It wasn't pretty, at least by the offense, but the Browns are trying to prove something do something that hasn't been done in a very long time. Win without very good quarterback play. And I thought DTR, for what he was asked to do, actually did a decent job. We'll get into the details on that. I thought it was a great win. There were some clutch performances on that final drive from some guys who hadn't done much all the time. But the defense obviously led the way. Myles Garrett setting the tone right off the bat with that sack that should have been a safety. But thankfully it wasn't. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, exactly. It led to a touchdown.
You know, Mike said something on our call pre-show that it was exactly what I was thinking last night driving home from the game. If I told you before the year, Deshaun's not going to hardly play this year. He's going to have a bum shoulder. He's going to go on IR at the halfway point. Nick Chubb's not going to play all year. You're going to be down to your 4th and 5th starting tackles. What do you think the Browns' record would be right now? It would be 3-7, 2-8, and I'd be fighting G about. He'd be screaming, "Fire him! Fire everybody! Everybody's got to go!" And I'd be going, "G, they got nobody. They got nobody. What do you expect?" And yet this team is 7-3 and in control of its own destiny. It's unbelievable the job that they have done. Full credit to them for doing it, for finding ways to win. They Steelers'd the Steelers yesterday.
Yep.
That's exactly what I said when the game was over.
Yeah.
I told my wife, I said, we turned into the Steelers today.
They Steelers the Steelers, and all credit to them for doing that.
Yeah, listen, I watch video games now because I don't have time to play. And so
you watch other people play them?
Yes, I watch
things I'll never understand for
fighting games, strategy games where they go around in teams and they see who can last longest in war type situations. And I realized the reason I watch those is because it gives me some insight into Kevin Stefanski's mind. I think this was one of the most masterful jobs he's done while he's here. And a lot of people don't really understand why. When we get into it, this was genius level, right? Because a lot of people were screaming that they didn't throw the ball, they were a little conservative, but it hit me. I said, "Oh man, this is." I tell them like in the Matrix, in the last one, not this last one, but the one before that, Matrix Revolutions. He says, the Oracle and the architect, they meet on the bench, and the Oracle's sitting there, and the architect comes along. He says, "You played a dangerous game, didn't you?" She's like, "Yes, I did play a dangerous game." Kevin Stefanski played a dangerous game, but it worked. It worked, and we'll expound on that later.
Yeah. I love that analogy. I don't know anything about what you're talking about, but I love the analogy that he's coming at this from a different angle. That's what geniuses do. Mm-hmm. Not saying he's a genius, but what he did yesterday and what he's done this year, to your point, we have all of a sudden enveloped the Steelers culture. We're doing it with great defense. It is not a good offense, but the offense knows coming into the game, because of the defense they have, they don't need to be great. Mm-hmm. It's okay if you run it a lot. It's okay if you don't get a lot of yards on the ground. What was interesting to me yesterday was the game played out exactly how we said it would Friday, really. You said 10-9. Mm-hmm. I had 17-13. It was low scoring. I think they both turned it over once. Am I right?
No.
Steelers did not turn it over. Okay, so just Cleveland had the pick.
Yeah.
When you go back and you look at the things that we said had to happen for them to win, they checked all those boxes. Myles made a couple of big plays when he needed to. Myles Garrett, again, he didn't do anything to hurt himself in Defensive Player of the Year hunt. For my money, the fact that this team is 7-3, when you put all of that evidence, because I'm with you, 3-7.
Yep.
I literally thought about it. Okay, where would they be?
Yeah.
What we're watching in real time, and it's so exciting to watch, is a slow and gradual turning of the Browns' ship. Their point on the horizon is changing as we're watching them. They now have the confidence, whether it's DTR or P.J. Walker or Deshaun Watson. All three of those quarterbacks have come in against big odds at the end of the game when they have not been moving the ball, and Kevin called the right plays at the exact right time. I was screaming the entire game, throw the ball downfield. Throw the ball downfield.
I was not.
Keep them honest. I wanted one a quarter.
I thought they would take a deep shot late.
I did too. I thought they would.
Our subscribers.
Because, as I said to Mike before the show, one throw deep. The Steelers were going to play the way they were playing.
But no Minkah Fitzpatrick. That's why I thought, try him out.
And they had their backup safety go off to injury.
Yes, at one point.
And I thought
This is what G's talking about, the dangerous game and why he didn't do it, and I loved every minute of it, and it worked.
But there's
and
work.
Now the question is, how much can this work?
Well, going forward, he's going to have to do more, but it was for
He will.
Kevin Stefanski's game planning game by game, and that's what Bill Belichick does before he went over the cliff.
But
Now he
do
sucks.
they have the easiest schedule remaining?
No, but it's definitely not as hard as some other teams that are in the same race.
When you look at their remaining schedule, you said appropriately on Friday that it's a race to 10.
yes.
They need 3 in 7 to get to 10.
They're going to get there, but
They're gonna get there.
I think their schedule is a little bit tougher than you might give. Denver's no pushover.
What you mean?
No, they're not.
Houston is suddenly looking like
I'm scared.
And
of
the
that game.
Jets,
Rams are
though, who the
frisky.
hell's the Jets starting quarterback?
the Jets. I think that's a win. The Bengals Week 18 is probably a win, but it shouldn't come to that.
None of these games are very tough.
But
either.
you got the freaking Jaguars in there. The Texans and the Jaguars are not easy. Bears and Jets
Look
should
at
be
the
wins.
Bills' schedule,
But listen,
guys. Go look at their schedule. Chiefs, Eagles,
the Ravens actually have the hardest schedule left in the league.
and I think the
Really?
Bills have the 3rd hardest. Well, that's great for us, though.
Yeah,
That's
according
great for us.
to based on some
Winning percentage,
metrics,
yeah.
not winning percentage,
Okay.
based on the metrics on how good teams
We'll
are.
get into it in a little bit, but when we're talking about Stefanski and the way he coaches and everything, I had a player tell me something yesterday. It immediately made me think of you, and we'll talk about it a little bit later
Okay.
about the way that he has sort of changed his style a little bit this year.
From offense to defense?
No, just in his thinking. We'll talk about it
Okay.
a little bit
We'll-
later. Because
that'll
then I
come
text
later.
with a couple other players, and they all agree with
we've
it.
been talking a lot on this show. I first brought it up last year about how the offense has regressed and it's more of a defensive game. I have so many numbers, it took 2 pages to print them out. We are officially out of the high production, powerful offense era and into an era of more defensive-minded play. And by the way, that bodes very well for our Cleveland Browns.
I don't buy that
Very
we're in.
well.
I don't buy that it's an era yet. It's not long enough to be called an era.
No, you're right, because for it to be an era, it's got to be 3 years. But I can show you where it's 2 years, and this is the 3rd year of declining offensive production. Go back to 2020.
Right, but the team that won the Super Bowl still won because of offense last year.
So if you do it that way, and I understand why you would, because that's the cream of the crop, that can still be an anomaly. What I did is I took total numbers from all games, and it's a pretty clear delineation
All right,
that it
we'll
is
take
a
a look.
much more defensive-minded game. Sacks are through the roof now. Sacks are through the roof. Go ahead.